Hello and welcome to Sewing with Threads, the monthly podcast with the staff of Threads magazine. I'm Carol Fraser, your host for today, and this episode I have with me my colleagues Sarah McFarland and Janine
Hello.
Clegg.
Hey, Carol. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah and Janine, and Happy New Year.
Same to
Happy
you.
New Year.
Thank you very much. We're starting out the new year talking about what kind of new inspiration we have for our sewing coming up, what we like to think about when we're trying to choose our projects, and just how we're going to make sewing be an important and meaningful part of our lives and bring some joy to our life instead of making us feel stressed out or anxious or just tired. So we'll talk a little bit about what keeps us going and what gets us really thrilled about our upcoming sewing ideas. So I'm going to start out by asking you both, do you make New Year's resolutions? Do you make sewing resolutions for the new year?
I do, Carol. And I think that I've gotten a little bit away from sort of punishing New Year's resolutions. It's less about self-improvement and more about what I would like to do for myself in the coming year. And it seems like there's a natural sort of break between Christmas and New Year's where I get a chance to do that each year. And the past few years, I've been making vision boards of things that I want to achieve, things that I want to sew. And then, throughout the year, that's been a great inspiration. I keep glancing at that, and it makes it seem more achievable.
I kind of agree with you, Sarah. I try not to set up anything that's going to make me feel like I'm not achieving what I said I would set out to do as a goal, but to come up with ideas that might keep me interested and also, yes, that little period of time, usually for me between Christmas and New Year's, when I take time off from work and I have a moment to sort of untangle my level of stress and bring my creativity back up to the surface a little bit. It's a good time to start thinking about what I'm going to do. How about you, Janine?
Well, I avoid writing down or making a list of resolutions because I'm always very ambitious, too ambitious. This has happened to me in the past. I've had a list, maybe even if it was just a mental list, and it was very ambitious about things that I wanted to do. A lot of it had to do with sewing. I want to make this dress. I want to make this pair of pants. And then life got in the way, the daily demands and things that were way more important. And then I disappointed myself by the end of the year. I had not gotten any of those things done, and I, was really down on myself about it. So I guess I think of the new year more as kind of as you do, that try to get some inspiration and, maybe look at what kinds of garments I want to alter and just say, okay, these are things that I like to do, but I'm not going to flail and get upset about it and get annoyed with myself that I didn't get it done. These are things that would be nice to do, and then maybe slowly bring in the idea and try to figure out, is there some time this year? Do I want to take some time off? Can I take some time off, really, is what it comes down to. And maybe get started on it and not get angry with myself that I haven't done anything.
Yeah. Well, we like to say no crying in sewing, so I think there should be no anger in sewing too.
Absolutely.
The point of it is to make us happy, not to make us upset with ourselves or with anything else.
Right.
So, we're just now, as we're taping this, wrapping up the spring issue and thinking about kind of spring sewing. And I'm wondering what new trends, if any, seem to be calling to you.
Oh, cargo pants and flares. Two styles of pants that I love, and I was very happy to see that they are trending again. Absolutely love flares. I don't have a great pattern for flares right now. It's something I'm going to have to adapt.
It's funny. I tend to look at classic clothing and less with the trends and trying to find things that look good on me, because I don't always look good with, some of the trends that come across. But there is one thing in forecasting that we've seen, getting back to the white blouse and maybe doing little tweaks on that. And I like that idea. And because I'm always needing a white blouse or a white top to go with whatever. I mean, it's so versatile. So I'd like to just take a new look at a white top. I'd like to see what I can do for spring on that.
I've been seeing a lot of wide leg pants, which I really like. I've always liked them. And if they're cut right, I think they look really great on almost anybody. You just have to get the right proportion for your height and your sort of leg length so that you don't feel overwhelmed in them. So I'm kind of into looking into something like that. But the question for me also is, does anyone have anything planned in Viva Magenta, Pantone's color of the year?
Oh, Carol, I had to look up what is Viva Magenta. Can I just read to you the Pantone Color Institute? They're the ones who come up with the color of the year. And they define magenta as a nuanced crimson red tone that presents a balance between warm and red. And the Institute goes on to describe Viva Magenta as a shade rooted in nature, descending from the red family and expressive of a new signal of strength. So it's all about being fearless and strong and ready to take on the world. I think this probably has something to do with us coming out of the pandemic. And the other thing that I want to note about that color is that it's different from fuchsia. You know, fuchsia is more pinkish and purplish, and this has more red tones to it. So I kind of like the magenta better than the fuchsia, I think. And I am thinking of it as more of an accent color, you know, whether it's a scarf or just a skirt with other, you know, basic neutrals, or even a top with pants that are neutral. That's where my thinking is on this.
Yeah. It's a slightly stronger color than I normally go for, but I was thinking about it as an accent too. I like to wear, I tend to wear things that are darker and slightly richer colors, sort of browns, plums, burgundies, purples. And I actually think it would look good with any of those because it's got that warmth that fuchsia doesn't have. To me, fuchsia gets harsh for me, but magenta might really work. And I'm interested in seeing how it looks with things that I already own. I think it could be a very cool, just like that little pop of color.
I think I prefer the Valentino pink. Probably a little more fuchsia. It's a little lighter, brighter. It's a little cooler. And I haven't done anything with that color yet, but I was so intrigued by that whole collection. And I think that was a lot of fun. Yeah, a vibrant, really life-affirming pink or magenta. I'm definitely going to incorporate that next year.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing for me is that it seems transitional because it's neither super dark nor super pale. I don't tend to wear light colors, but I think it can help sort of bring a little bit of brightness to my usual rather dark palette. So I think that's probably going to be something I will be looking for. So yeah. Now, one of the things that I like to do to keep inspired is, of course, what I think everybody does. That's, scroll through patterns online, get on the fabric websites and sort of go down the rabbit hole, just sort of dream up things that you might be making. But I tend to do some outside reading as well. And I'm wondering what you two might have been looking at or reading lately that's been inspiring to you.
I haven't been reading too much that is sewing related. I have been reading The Principles of Knitting, and I've got it right here. Let's see the author's name, June Simmons Hyatt. So I've been going through that and really honing some of my knitting techniques. So that's something that I think I kind of settle into every winter. And then for sewing, I've been turning to, so many of our books and so many of the books by experts we've worked with on specific techniques, so I feel like I haven't memorized all these things yet, but now I know at certain points in a project, I'm like, oh, I'm going to check Claire Schaefer and see what she has to say about this zipper fly, or, check on something that I know Judy did, Judy Newcomb. So I just have this constant rotation in my sewing reference books. I feel like they're becoming better and better old friends.
That's really nice. Last year in 2022, we spent a lot of time talking amongst ourselves about embroidery and quilting and bringing that into garment sewing. And, embroidery was one of the first ways I learned to sew, hand sewing. And so it has a special place for me. And I kind of got drawn back into that, thinking about that, although I, I didn't have any time to do much of it in 2022. But there was a book that came across my desk at work about hand embroidery, and it's a beautiful looking book, and it really inspired me to start thinking about it again, just flipping through the book. And it was called Seasonal Flower Embroidery, and I just love the way it looks, and we'll have to share some more photos of this in the show notes, but it really is pretty. And maybe it's too delicate for embroidering on a pair of jeans, but I could see it on a more delicate garment. And, it's a lot of they say a year of stitching wild blooms and botanicals. That's the subhead in this. And so it's kind of spring inspiring. And I don't know, it just gets me thinking more about embroidery, which I love. And I'd like to get back to doing a little bit more. So that's what's inspiring me right now.
Janine, I think that all of us now, we kill time in waiting rooms in our lives a fair amount. And embroidery is such a nice portable thing to do that it's something I've been thinking about for many reasons, but that's another one of them too, so that you can sort of take it with you when you need to go somewhere. Yeah. I have been, that I am like a nerdy history person. And so the books I've been reading, one is called Fabricating Women, and this is a history of seamstresses in Ancien Regime France, so mostly the 18th century, late 17th and 18th centuries. Really interesting to see what women did for work, and how different it was from what men did. So that's good. That's like a deep dive. And then this other one called The Pocket, Hidden History of Women's Lives. And that's kind of the history of pockets. Mostly it's dealing with pockets, separate pockets, the kind that came on a little waistband and you used to tie them in under your skirt or under your apron, and all different examples of them sewn. And I just like reading that and thinking, why are we all carrying handbags? Why do we, if you don't have pockets in your skirt, couldn't you make something like that and wear it so that it would be an accessory, wear it on the outside even and make it look kind of cool? Could be sort of a fun thing to do. So
cargo pants. Hey,
cargo pants. Yeah.
For spring. There you go.
I know. I love cargo pants. And I think that's one of my trends too, that I'm kind of into. So, yeah. So I was going to also ask what you're doing for textile arts. Janine, you tell me that you're interested in embroidery, which is something I've been thinking about too. And partly, the pandemic has changed a lot for everybody. For me, it's that I don't go to the office a lot. None of us do right now. And I'm dressing a little bit differently. I'm sort of relaxing a little bit more into what I wear and feeling like I used to try to keep things sort of a basic kind of capsule-y sort of thing and then use a print or whatever, or a scarf or something. And I always worried, like, if I put embroidery on something, I'll never be able to wear it with anything else. But now I think, what difference does that make? I can still do it. So I could probably embroider stuff. And I've been thinking about the article called Simple Stitches, Complex Designs by India Hayford. We'll have to put a little link to that, about the Israeli Yemenite embroidery that goes around the border of your clothing, and it's kind of improvised as you go along. To me, that seems like a really great way to put a kind of an interesting embellishment on something that is not foofy, and it just can be whatever you want it to be like.
Well, and what's really nice about that is the stitches that are done to make these exquisite motifs are very simple stitches, chain stitching, satin stitching, stem stitching, very simple stitches. So it's not that you have to spend years learning the stitch. It's a simple stitch to get to know, and then it's repeated and to create these motifs. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can change the size and scale. And it's one of these things that it's sort of, you're kind of playing as you go along with it. So if you don't like it, you haven't done so much, you can take it back out again and start again, do the next row in something different. So you're having fun. You're not having to be a perfectionist about it. You don't have to plan too far ahead. And given how intense work can be for everybody and life, really, to have something like that you can just kind of sort of slide into comfortably and feel good about and not have to worry about too much is important. It's important to bring that into your life too.
That's right. Well, and I was thinking a little bit about, stories that we've done in the last year that have really inspired me. Because you were asking what kinds of books have we been looking at. I have to say a lot of the articles that we have in Threads and that we have online from our digital ambassadors have been very inspiring to me. I think of the chic knit pants story by Christine Johnson. When we were shooting that, when we had the models modeling it for the issue, I was so impressed by those pants. And I thought, gosh, things are so much more casual these days. Having a pair of pants would be really great. I really need to make a pair. And Christine goes through a lot of great tips on how to make it easy to sew them. And I thought, oh gosh, I really just need to do that. I would like to do that in the new year, but I'm not making a list because I don't want to get mad at myself at the end of the year, but I would like to give that a shot. And Carol, you and I were talking earlier, and I know that you had a pants fitting or a pants story that you were also interested in that inspired you from our issue from one of our issues last year.
Oh, the top down, center out.
Yes,
top down, center out pants fitting with Ruth Collins. Yes, that is something I will be revisiting, and I know that it's become like even bigger than it was when I first spoke to Ruth several months ago. It's so doable. The results are so surprisingly amazing, and you can do it by yourself, and it works for a lot of different styles of pants. I think that my idea was like, I'd really like to have a few basic pants styles that I can just kind of make, just always be able to make them. And one is like, a sort of a straight leg trouser, maybe a wide leg, maybe something with quite a taper. And then I'm also thinking about a knit style, something that in Ponte knit will look polished, but will be really comfortable. I can wear when I'm sitting around in my house doing whatever I'm doing and go out and not feel like I'm, in my yoga outfit or something. So
or pajamas, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what I liked about the Christine Johnson article too. All of those knit pants were a little bit dressier. They were not. I'm not a pajama. I don't go out in my pajamas very often.
They didn't look like sweatpants. No.
They were nice.
They were beautifully finished, and they gave you a professional look with the comfort of a knit. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I tend toward more tailored clothing and wovens, but these knit pants were nice. I do like this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think maybe exploring a bit, there are some stretch wovens that really have as much stretch almost as a knit. Oh. And you can probably substitute that in for some of the knit pants patterns, but I don't know how much yet. And I would have to figure it out, because the last thing I would want to do is make a pair of pants and not get them up over my hips, which I could easily see happening to me. That's the sort of shape that I have, where it's just like it has to get over the hips, and then once it's there, you're good. But it's just that one part that has to get past. So.
Were there any other articles that you both found interesting or inspiring, or something new for you in the last year?
Actually, they're not from the last year, but I was thinking about a couple articles that now it feels like the right time to make a project that applies them. So I was thinking a few years ago, I worked with Susan Calgiana's story about making a wonderful trench coat and just some of the details you've done it. I've made trench coats before, and I have to say it's an involved project, but one that I love. I love making all those details and putting it together. And then I love the garment itself. It's always stylish. And then there are so many intriguing embellishments. I worked on another story about oversized applique. So this spring I'd like to make a trench coat with oversized applique and just have
Oh,
something that's really striking. And I've seen many designer examples that I'd like to kind of emulate.
that's nice. I like that. Yeah, there are a lot of extras that you can put on a trench coat, but a trench coat is also so functional, and everybody kind of needs one in their wardrobe because, especially in the springtime, whether it's raining or it's just there's a chill, and having a sweater or a small jacket isn't always it doesn't always answer what you need at that time. So trench coat in spring, awesome. Love it.
Yep. And that's very much Sarah's style,
Yes,
especially
it is.
Evelyn's.
I was going to say, Janine, I can't guarantee it's just going to be a practical garment. I definitely fall into making things that value style over function quite a bit, quite a bit. I see things that are intriguing, colorful. I don't mind standing out in a crowd if I have the opportunity to do that. So it may not be waterproof, let's just say.
I would make it magenta or fuchsia, the color that you
Oh, that's a
prefer.
good idea. That will definitely stand out in a crowd.
Well, when you talk about standing out in a crowd, this makes me think of an article that I worked on for a recent issue with Linda Lee, the Not So Basic Capsule Wardrobe, which I really enjoyed because as I said before, for work, I tend to keep things a little bit simpler so that the coordinates are very easy to work with when I decide to mix and match things. But the way that she brings together things that are not completely matching, patterns that go together, colors that you might not otherwise expect would work together, kind of opened my eyes and made me think I could do that kind of wardrobe planning now a little bit more easily than I might have before. Maybe ease myself into it while I'm at home and feeling maybe less conservative about what I wear. I don't know why I think I'm conservative at work. I'm probably just very basic, but still, I think it's interesting to challenge yourself to bring in some new elements into your clothing. So that's an article that I thought was really fun, where you look at something that could be patterned, it could be plaid or something, and you think of it almost as a neutral or as something that has a lot of potential for mixing with other things rather than its own big statement. That can be a fun way to dress.
Carol, I have to tell you, I think that's great. And I have remember, I don't know if you heard it, but when we were at the model shoot, we were actually in Manhattan in Gramercy Park when we were shooting the model wearing the garments that Linda Lee had let us borrow to show. And the model was right along the sidewalk and she was just doing a few steps, and our photographer was right there, and a car went by and a guy leans out and he's like, "You're looking really good." Like he was impressed by those garments. So, I mean, obviously he was also probably impressed by the model, but
Yes.
the garments are great. So for people to stop and say something tells you something. So
Yeah,
go for
yeah.
it.
And that's something that I think Linda is very good at. She's very good at helping people sort of break out of the pattern of everything needs to be solid and matched together perfectly, and the way that we might have all been raised. So I would like to get a little bit more there, because right now I see that a lot of trends, especially in the sewing community, are for clothes with quite a bit of volume. Janine, you were mentioning this earlier, and I see a lot of these big dresses with very large flounces and tiers and big sleeves, and I adore that kind of clothing. I always have, but the older I get, I'm sort of getting smaller, and I don't feel that I can wear that amount of fabric anymore without looking quite lost. And so, if I'm not going to wear something huge, I'd like to wear something with life elsewhere. And so that may be texture or pattern. Yeah. And what else did I like? I loved the profile, the Q&A with Natalie Channon. That was one. I mean, I've been aware of Natalie Channon for quite a long time, but it was so nice to read what's happening with her lately, to get a chance to look at her book that came out a couple months ago in October. And and sort of revisit for my own benefit an understanding of what her overall project is. It's not just making these clothes, it's being part of a community, it's supporting her local community, and calling attention to what it means to be part of your world in a thoughtful and meaningful way, and tread lightly on everything that's around you. So I thought that one was a favorite of mine. And then Catherine Seeberger's story about her opera coat that she worked on with Susan Calgi and Kenneth was such a joy to edit with her. She wrote such a great manuscript, and it was the sort of thing that makes you feel like I could do it too. I could really take on this huge project and focus and get it done and have like the garment of a lifetime. So that one was really fun. And I have a daughter who's 22, and I think I might have mentioned this at some other time, and she wants me to start making her wedding dress. She's not engaged. There's nothing like that happening, but she's like, if you don't start now, it won't be done. And I told her I will not
change
start
her mind
on it
6 times between now and then. You might
I'm
want
not
to wait a
starting
little
on
bit.
anything, but I'm realizing that I could do it if I need to eventually someday. Yes.
Would make a great story. There you go.
It might make a story of trauma. It's very hard to say. So,
I have great faith in you, Carol. I think you could do it.
I'm going to ask one last question, and this is: what have you seen new out there or new to you that helps with your sewing? It could be a notion, a fabric you really love, pattern line that seems exciting to you. Is there anything that you would like our listeners to pay a little attention to?
Well, I knew about Vicky Sew's patterns, but I think I was looking for a coat pattern. Actually, this ties back to Catherine Seeberger's story a little bit. This is the year where I'm going to start using more of my treasured fabrics. I'm finally going to make projects with fabrics that I've been afraid to use, either because I love them so much, they were very expensive, they're a little bit tricky to work with, and I've got to do some learning. But yeah, this is the year. I was looking for a pattern for this fabric. We can put a picture in. It was a bonded wool that I got at one of the Threads Experience shows from Metro Textiles. And it's got cut out latex bonded to one side, and then the other side is wool. And I don't know how I'm going to press this. I'm not sure what type of needle I'm going to use. It's going to be a challenge. Looking for a pattern, came across Vicky Sew's particular coat, the Faith coat. So I'm going to use that for my fabric, but I also discovered the entire line. I love it. I probably bought 8 or 10 patterns. They're very contemporary. A lot of the patterns are very bold silhouettes, and I love how they're presented in very clean backgrounds, bright colors. So yeah, I discovered Vicky Sew's.
That is very high style. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. Carol, what about you?
There's a bunch of patterns that I've been liking. I should look at a few. I've made a list. There are just so many. So if you like utilitarian things, waffle patterns, they have a bunch of really cute styles with like buckles and clips and straps and all kinds of contraptions that probably I don't need, but I like how they look. They make me look like I know where I'm going and what I'm going to be doing there. I always like style arc patterns. They're not, again, this is not a new line, but they, to me, feel contemporary, a little bit different from what I see elsewhere, and are quite wearable and quite sewable. Daryl Lancaster's line, Weaver Sew. These are kind of classic patterns that are for people who do hand woven fabrics, but they would be very nice in any kind of an outerwear or wool, or even probably some in linen. And the lines she comes up with are just very nice. They're very easy to wear, and they look good. Some interesting seaming here and there, and quite wearable. And I think she puts in some really good directions. And
I was going to say, I haven't examined them closely, but knowing Daryl, I'm sure the instructions are fantastic.
Exactly. And then the final thing that's really caught my eye is Cashmerette's Rockwell dress, which is based on a Claire McCardle design. I really, really want to try that. I actually have a ready-to-wear dress that looks quite a bit like that, and I've been wanting to recreate that for many years. And so now I think I could do that. And for my little friendly notion that I like, I came across this little needle threader in my collection, and I don't know where I got it, but it's called Elite. It's by Elite, and it's actually really nice. I don't know if you can see it, but it's one of these ones where the little point comes out here. It pushes the thread right through the needle there. And there are a lot of ones that do that, but for some reason, this one really works for me each time. I think it's because I can see that little thing coming out. I know if the thread's gone through or not. So now that I can't see to thread a needle, that has become a good friend to me. Janine, do you have anything that's been making your sewing life easier, better?
The one thing that it's not new, it's not a new notion, but it's a little bit new to me as I start to do more pattern work and, making muslins for myself and finding a better fit and retracing, having to create new pattern tissue, is the fashion ruler to help True Lines. And I can't believe that I lived without it before this. So I've been using the fashion ruler a lot, and I'm so happy we have that. So
it's not something that we recommend. We don't. When you say, somebody's getting started in sewing, they need good scissors, a rotary cutter, a mat, whatever, a fashion ruler. I don't usually mention that, but that's such an inexpensive, easy, important thing to have. And it takes your sewing up several notches all in one go, because any alteration you need, you can do it with so much more confidence. Your lines are going to come out looking so much better. So that's a great suggestion. Well, I think that is our time. I hope we all actually do manage to make some progress on our non-resolutions, and we'll try to keep each other honest as the year goes on. And we hope everybody who's listening is also getting geared up for a great year of sewing.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Follow Threads on social media and visit threadsmagazine.com to view show notes for this episode. While you're on the site, check out Threads Insider, our online membership with exclusive access to expert sewing techniques. Until next time, keep on sewing with threads.